The foundation for every garden, the thing that you need to take care of before you do anything else is your soil, right? Your
Mm-hmm.
soil is everything. And poor soil is the killer to your garden. And it is the thing that is going to cause your garden not to thrive. And it is going to be a major contributor to, other problems like pests and whatnot. Welcome to Everyday Homesteading, the show for busy families who want more self-sufficiency without burning out. I'm Josh.
And I'm Carolyn from Homesteading Family. And in every episode, we share time-tested knowledge on topics from growing and preserving your food to raising livestock to herbal medicine and anything homesteading in between.
Let's jump in.
So you've spent the time building a garden. You started from scratch. You've put your energy into it. Maybe you had to convince a spouse or kids to get behind the project in the first place. You had to spend some money. You went and you got some soil. Maybe you got bag soil from the, what do you get? The big box store, the hardware store.
Maybe you just planted in what you had.
Yeah.
That's what you got.
Because that's what you have. So you just planted straight into the backyard. And, you noticed right off that things weren't going the way you expected they were going to go in your garden. Maybe you got a little bit of good growth right at the beginning, but then you started noticing things not looking so good.
Maybe they wilted or browned, and
Maybe they didn't produce as much as you thought you would.
oh man,
And here you are, you have put all this energy, maybe all this money into starting a garden, and it's just not turning out the way you expect it to.
that is frustrating. And so then you go for all the regular solutions you hear about, like you got to add this fertilizer or that fertilizer, or you got a pest problem, so you're going to spray for this, or oh my gosh, weeds. Now we got to get into some herbicide and occasionally fungicide, right? These are all just the general solutions, and that doesn't even work so well.
Sometimes, in fact, those normal recommendations for how to fix your garden when it's not doing well can actually make your problem worse. So today, we are going to be talking about how to make sure that you have your foundations right so that you can grow a great garden next year.
All right, let's go.
For those of you guys who are new here to Everyday Homesteading, we always do a little bit of chit chat to begin with. If you don't have time for chit chat, you can always fast forward, but we like sitting and talking about what's going on here in the homestead and what we're up to. And hey,
Hey there.
how you doing?
I'm good. And I just got to put it out there for those people that have been listening and watching. For you and I, this is a bit of a new format.
This is
In a new
new.
form, and this is really cool. But if we look a little lost at a moment here and there, well, you're getting a real deal. And we're finding our rhythm in
Yeah.
everyday homesteading.
Everyday
really
homesteading.
Cool. So that's part of what is going on right
Yeah.
now, besides everything else out there in the homesteading.
Obviously, we are, if you're watching on video, we are sitting in the pantry. We're actually in our very real working pantry right now. This is not a set. This is not a pretend pantry. These are actually jars of food behind us that we've been putting up all season. So
Yep.
it's kind of fun. So I guess you can see, if you're watching on video, what it is that we've been up to lately. And that's harvest season.
Well, and a little behind the scenes here.
Yeah.
Again, this is now everyday homesteading, but it started as the pantry chat, and it actually started right here in the pantry.
It did.
Yeah, and so
A lot of years ago.
We're kind of laughing that we left the pantry for the pantry chat, and here we are back in the pantry, which is really cool.
Yeah. It's kind of fun. Kind of a return to the roots, I guess.
It is a little bit of a return to the roots with a little more tech.
A little more tech, a little better sound.
Yeah.
A name that makes it so people can find it a little bit easier when they're looking for solutions. Because, in I think the world the way it is right now, there's a lot of people looking for solutions and ways to take back control of their life. It feels a little out of control out there.
It sure can.
And a lot of people are feeling that, whether it's your grocery budget feels out of control, feels like it's just getting more and more expensive. Health things feel a little out of control, like, oh my goodness, there's so many unhealthy things coming at us. What do we do? Or just, life in large can kind of start feeling a little wily out there.
It can. Hopefully, maybe your garden is feeling out of control with like abundant production. If
Yeah,
not, we're going to help you get there.
we're gonna get
Yeah.
there. Okay, so on the homestead, what have you been up to?
Wow. Well, we're man, fall is coming on, isn't it? And so um we're still kind of in that rhythm. It's a lot of in the rhythm and planning for the next steps here. Animals are still out in pasture. They're doing their final rotation.
Mm-hmm.
The garden, things are starting to shift a little bit. And of course, there's a lot coming into the kitchen, a lot of harvest going on that you guys are dealing with inside. And it's really just getting prepped for winter right now, making sure we've got everything in and our supplies, our stocks, that we're getting ready to get animals into the barn. Still a little ways away, but it's just kind of that looking towards fall and getting ready for winter.
Yeah,
And so yeah, it's coming along good.
it's coming along good.
Yep.
You've been busy building a cabin on the property. We've been talking about that. We have
Oh,
a
right.
daughter. Oh, yeah. Oh, that
Yeah.
small little project off to the side. We have a daughter who is getting married, and they have decided they would love to put down roots right here on the
Hmm.
homestead
Yep.
and kind of continue to contribute to the family economy here.
Yeah.
And that's really exciting, but we are racing. In fact, when you're listening to this, did you know this actually releases on the day of their wedding?
Oh, wow. So if you're watching this for the first time,
Yeah,
then we may be actually in the wedding.
in the wedding right now. Yeah,
And I may be running around that morning putting the last nails and light switches on the
the little
cabin.
cabin. I know.
We get a couple weeks after that. They go for a honeymoon, which is great. So
We can jump in
we'll have a
there.
moment to button it up and pretty it up a little bit. So that's one side of the story. But on the other side, you're busy planning a wedding.
Yes.
Right, it's our first
Yeah.
daughter getting
Yeah.
married, and the wedding is here
On the
on the
property.
property.
Hmm.
Home wedding, which
Yeah.
she really wanted, which is cool. We love that.
Yeah. You know, one of the great things is that our kids are very much kind of like you and I. I guess that's not a surprise, but they're actually very practical, most of them. And she is very practical. Why she has her
Or
things
did you
that
just
she
say we're
wants.
practical?
Well, okay, we like things that are,
I
but
like
we there are some things that are maybe not practical, but she's very practical in
Yeah.
her wedding sense. So she has her beautiful things that she wants, that she's dreamed of, but they're actually not very many, which is great because she's always like, why make this difficult? Why not just bring the community together and have a beautiful wedding of
Yeah.
just celebrating a marriage instead of, really focusing on the wedding itself? So her practicality there is making it a lot easier
Yeah.
for planning because it's like, oh, we can make it beautiful, but in a simple, beautiful backyard on the homestead sort of way.
Yeah.
And she is very happy with that. So that is helping a lot, but it's still a lot of pieces to arrange. So we've been busy with that.
Yeah.
Hey, before we move in, I just want to say, especially since this is the first episode right here of Everyday Homesteading, um, if you are enjoying any of the podcasts we've put out, if you would please help us out, help us spread the word about this podcast. It just takes a moment. If you're listening on a podcast player, please just hit rate. You just scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, hit rate, review. If you can, just a few words helps a lot. And then if you can make sure you follow it and download at least the 5 initial Everyday Homesteading episodes, that would really, really help us. It really helps the algorithm to just push this out to more people so more
Yeah.
people get to find it, more people get to see it. If you're on YouTube, like always, if you like, comment, anything like that. But just in general, we would love your feedback on the new format. Like, we would love to hear what you think about this, things you like, things you don't like, things you're not crazy about, what you would change, what you wish was different. Like, tell us all because we're trying to figure out our new flow here. So we really want to hear what you think,
Change is hard. It's always hard, even when it's good.
even when it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
good.
So if you've been with us for a while, give it a couple of weeks.
Well, we have 5 brand new episodes for you today, so hopefully we're in a roll by the time we're
Okay,
done with
well, then
that.
go binge watch the 5 episodes. There you go.
There you go.
All right, we need to talk about our sponsor today
Yeah.
and say thanks for making this episode possible.
To Four Jars. Four Jars is a company that really has the homesteader kitchen in mind. They make all sorts of really practical, great tools for the kitchen. And I've got to say, I just realized something. You know, they have a new line of jars out. They've done the embossing of the jars, like the logo, on the inside of the jar, which means you have a flat outside surface for putting labels on or for writing on.
Hey,
This is probably something that only people who really use jars a lot will appreciate. But if you do, if you're really into using jars, you'll appreciate being able to write on your jars or put labels on them. So I think that was just really cool. It was a really practical
clear
thing.
labeling is so, so important. So
Yeah.
talk about that.
Well, and they're obviously using the jars.
Right.
I love that they are homesteaders. They have homesteaders at heart when they're designing
Mm,
these products.
yeah.
The company's started with 5 brothers who are all getting together and making these products. And I think that's really cool.
Very cool. And they've got, I mean, they're not just all about jars, right? The name
Right?
says 4 jars, but from vacuum sealers
Mm-hmm.
to little gadgets like jar openers and, of course, lids,
Yep.
right? And rings. They've got a whole
They have
whole gamut of
kitchen
supplies.
timers. They've got, yeah, all sorts of really good stuff out there. Lots of fun
Did
stuff.
they make a canner? Did I
I
say?
think they do. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think they have
yeah.
a
So
canner out
they
now.
got a
Yep.
lot going on for you to
Yeah.
check out. Yep. Let's see here. What you need to know besides that is that you can even save 10% on your next order at 4 Jars on their website using the code homesteadingfamily10, all one word. And they're giving our subscribers 10% off, and we will leave you a link in the show notes for that.
Awesome. All
Yeah,
right.
absolutely. All right.
Okay, so diving in, here we are. We've worked so hard on our garden, but we're not getting the results that we were hoping to. Or you walk out and you have pest problems, you have disease problems. Maybe you're just not getting the abundant harvest that you
Mm,
felt like you were working so hard on. This is disheartening, especially if you spent money on it, especially if you're just learning how to garden. It feels like, oh, I just put all this energy into something and it's not working.
yeah, and especially like, a lot of people are gardening because food is just getting stupid expensive. And
Yeah.
so people are doing what we've done throughout history, which is go back to the land and start raising,
Yeah.
growing some of our own food. And so if you're coming to this for the first time, it can be really challenging
Yeah.
as you're like trying to save money on the grocery budget and
Yep.
growing a garden, and the garden doesn't produce, and that's almost like a double whammy there. It can be, and that can be really tough, really frustrating.
And it can be hard to want to keep
Yep.
continuing,
Yeah.
So a lot of times what happens, things aren't going well. So who do you turn to? You turn to Google, right? Some sort of
Mm.
search engine. Maybe you turn to Pinterest somewhere and be like, oh, help, my garden's not growing well. What do I do? Well, the common solutions out there that you're going to see all over the place are things like,
Well, you're gonna describe an issue, right? Like I've got this pest, so there's gonna be a way to try to kill that pest, or I've got too many weeds, or I've got something, so maybe there's an herbicide, or your plant's not growing real well, so there's a synthetic fertilizer. These are gonna be a lot of the
mm-hmm,
just common things that are mimicking industrial agriculture to kind of give you a solution. The problem is those answers are props. They're momentary solutions that may or may not help, but actually make the core problem worse
yeah,
and create more damage in the long term if you get too far down any of those roads.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that can actually make the problem worse. So what you need to look at is your foundations for your garden.
exactly. And the foundation for every garden, the thing that you need to take care of before you do anything else is your soil, right? Your
Mm-hmm.
soil is everything.
Mm.
And poor soil is the killer to your garden. And it is the thing that is going to cause your garden not to thrive, and it is going to be a major contributor to, other problems like pests and whatnot. And
Yeah.
so before you can solve any of those other things, you solve the soil.
Solve
You
the soil.
build good soil. Then when you do that, you'll eliminate a lot of problems
Hmm.
through solving the soil and managing it well. Then you can start thinking about other solutions. But until you've done that,
Yeah.
everything else is in vain.
It's kind of the foundation,
Right.
right? That if you don't have this foundation right, everything else is going to have issues at some point. It's going to show up
Yeah.
in some place or another, whether it's needing too much water in your garden. That is a result of poor soil.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of extra work and a lot of issues that happen if you don't get this right. So, in order to save your investment, in order to get a really good return, in order to have really great nutrient dense food, pretty much, I don't want to say for free because it does cost something to
Mm-hmm.
garden, but, pennies on the dollar compared to what you have to buy not such good stuff at the grocery store for right now.
Oh
Like
man.
way, way cheaper.
Yeah.
You have to get this step right. So let's talk about what does soil need in order to be healthy?
Can I give just a little example
Yeah, let's do it.
first before we give you what health is? I want to share with you the advantages. And
Okay.
one of the first years that we really, really applied this
Mm,
and the principles that we're going to share with you here, we put a bit of money. We didn't have the ability to make all of our own compost
yeah.
and to gather our own mulch and some of the soil principles we're going to talk about. So we did buy them.
Hmm.
We bought them in and we spent a bit of money. But you know what? That garden produced 4 to 5x what we spent in
Oh, easily.
in
Yeah.
vegetables. So the return on that investment, however you go about it, and I'm talking about going about it like if you just have to go buy it, like some of you may have to do to start. Hopefully, eventually you can DIY some of it. But even if you got to go buy things to make your soil better, it's going to save you money and
Yeah.
worthwhile. So what we're showing you here works,
Yep.
even if you got to pay for it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Definitely.
All
Okay.
right.
So, what does soil need in order to be healthy?
Okay. We're going to talk about 6 core elements of soil that's going to make soil work for you.
Okay.
Right.
Good.
Number one, most important, is you got to get rid of the chemicals.
Ooh, this is so hard because so much of the advice out there is, go put some fertilizer on it. Go get that Miracle Grow fertilizer. I mean, I see this all over the place.
And the stuff
Just go get
works.
this. Yeah,
It's not that it doesn't work.
right.
It can't work. It works in the short term.
It works in the short term.
It's not working for you in the long term.
Yeah.
And so they're crutches, they're symptomatic solutions that solve a problem right now, but exacerbate a longer term problem.
If you have healthy soil, you don't need these things.
Right.
You don't need fake fertilizers, synthetic fertilizers. You don't need all the chemicals. So, let's take a step back and get those chemicals out of our soil. Let's get them out of our food supply. But when you get them in the soil, they're actually creating a scenario where your plants are dependent on them in order to be, they're dependent on that short-term solution
Mm-hmm.
because you've totally destroyed the long-term health of your soil.
Right.
So you have to be chemical free.
So, good, healthy garden soil has no chemicals in it.
Okay.
Period. Okay. Now, next, these are just some foundations to soil. You're going to have mineral. All soil needs mineral. Now, you have the minerals. They're the ground that you walk on. They're what we call dirt, right? Minerals aren't alive. They're just the foundation. But that is what your soil builds on, is just the minerals, just the ground that you walk on. So that's kind of obvious, but we've got to include it and essential to a soil.
All right.
Okay.
Good.
Next is organic matter.
Ooh.
If you read, Rodale's or any organic writing on gardening, you're going to hear it called humus. That's great, but just to keep it simple, you need organic matter, right? This is just generally plant life that was alive at some point that starts to feed the other things and do other things for you in the soil. So you've got to have organic matter.
How do you know if you have organic matter or not in your soil?
Well, you can do a soil test. You can get a soil test.
Okay. Like the kind that you have to send to somebody and get it analyzed?
Yeah. The old way was like to send it off to the extension, and they're really complicated. There's some great solutions. I'll just throw out RX Soil right now as one.
RX soil.
RX Soil
Okay.
is a great one. They've got a variety of soil tests. and they'll do a variety of things for
Hmm.
you, but they will tell you the organic matter.
Okay.
And you're looking for 7 to 8% in a vegetable garden.
So we've seen, and I know we've done some of the tests where you like put some of your soil into water and shake it up and let it settle in the
Mhm.
kitchen. Does that show you how much organic matter you have in there?
Yeah, you can get an idea of what your clay, your sand, your silt content. It's not going to tell you a percentage, but your organic matter will like float up to the
To
top,
the top, okay.
right? So you can definitely do that, and you don't have to have a soil test. It can be helpful, especially when you're getting started out for that organic matter. But the point is, because we're building towards something, right? So we're getting rid of chemicals. Chemicals kill the life in the soil, which is what we're going to get to, which is absolutely essential.
Yeah.
Okay. Minerals are your foundation. They're
Hmm.
your core, and that's what particularly the fungi, the beneficial fungi, feed on to pull those minerals to feed your plants, which ultimately feed you. But then you need that organic matter because all of the life in the soil that we'll talk about here in a second thrives on that.
Okay.
It also holds a couple of the next elements that we're going to talk about.
All right.
Okay, so we've got no chemicals, minerals, organic matter.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
and next you've got to have water, right?
Okay.
You have to have
Sure.
moisture. Now, that seems obvious, but what we're starting to build, particularly with the organic matter, is the soil has to be able to hold on to the water, right?
Okay.
If you get too heavy a clay, it absorbs so much and then it pools and runs off. If you
Okay.
got too heavy a sand, it just leaches right through and takes a bunch of your nutrients with it.
Well, and everybody's garden soil is different. What they're starting with
Right.
is different. You might have that clay, you might have that sand, you might have really nice, loamy, organic matter rich soil.
Mm-hmm.
But, everybody has a different starting spot. So I just want to pull this out. Beware of anybody who gives you some formula, right? Because you're starting at a different spot than another person. So there isn't this like, take this and add this and do this some exact all the way across the board.
Right.
You need to kind of get down into what your soil's like.
But here is what across the board. You do some research and people are going to tell you how to amend sand or amend clay. It's all the same, you guys. We're going to mimic nature. We're going to add organic matter chiefly. We'll talk about compost and all that in a minute, but you're going to build it on top just the way nature is. You're not going to turn it in. It's the same whether you've got, and your extremes are sand and clay. There's
Okay.
lots of in between and loam and silt and all this stuff, but your extremes are sand and clay. And what you're doing is you're adding organic matter to the top. That starts to hold on to water.
Mm-hmm.
And our next one, oxygen,
Ooh.
right?
Uh-huh.
So you've got to have water and oxygen. The plants need it, but more importantly, or just as importantly, is the next point to keep us moving, which is that biological or microbial life. Now, I like
Ooh.
to say biological life because it's everywhere from microbial down to bacteria, fungi, protozoa, all the way up to earthworms. That is what makes your soil tick. That is what makes it work. And that is what makes your garden grow and get your plants everything that they need. There's a whole world, we call it the soil food web, going
Wow.
on there. But you've got to have that microbial life. And so if you don't have these other pieces right, of no chemicals, because the chemicals kill the organic life, which breaks down the whole process.
Okay.
And then your soil is dead and it's no longer soil, it is dirt.
So you have like these ingredients that we need, those basic things
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about, but then the microbial life or the biological life, is that
Mm-hmm.
what you said? That's the thing that actually pulls them all together and makes the soil work together.
Right. And that's what moves nutrients around. They work together, they work with the plants to
Mm.
get the plants nutrients. The plants actually give the different forms of life in there to just kind of keep this conversation simple. The plants actually feed the different form of life. So you have a whole ecosystem going on under the ground in the soil. And our job is just to feed that. If we feed the soil will feed the plants, and the plants will feed us. Just to recap, we've got no chemicals because chemicals kill biological life. We've got our minerals, which is just the foundation that we have. You just
Mm-hmm.
work with what you have. Okay, then you're adding organic matter. Okay, that is giving a place, that's basically giving a home to all the biological life, right? It's giving structure and a home. And then you're feeding water and oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that organic matter creates the structure so that the soil holds water and air. And when you do that, your watering changes, right?
Right.
Because that soil starts to hold on to the water for you, and then a whole system starts to get going and things start to work well.
So, okay, so I can see right off that if you're following like conventional advice on gardening, you've gotten maybe bagged soil and you're growing in that and you're putting on fertilizers, putting
Hmm.
on all this stuff, uh, chemical stuff, you're really working with dead soil. Well,
Or
working with
you're
dirt.
either starting with it or you're killing what you have. It kind of depends on what your starting place is, you know.
Okay.
And particularly pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides. You're just destroying the soil.
All right.
Fertilizers, not as much. It's a slower game, but over time you're creating salinization and you're creating dependency that you don't need. They're not as detrimental, but none of it is good for the soil life. That's where we want to build soil. We want to take these six principles and put them together to create healthy, robust, living soil.
Okay, and I'm just going to say right now that if you're feeling like, oh, wow, I need to know more about this, we actually have like an action plan for you
Yep.
that you can go grab. It's free. You can just grab it. We'll make sure that the link is ready for you. I have it somewhere. I
Well,
don't have it
and
now.
yeah, we'll get that to you. And in the action plan, we'll cover these things. You don't have to remember them all here today, right now. And like Carolyn's saying, we'll give you an action plan and steps to take, because that's what's going through your mind, right?
Yeah,
It's like, okay, well, what's the best steps to get there and make sure I've got these things
right.
into my soil.
Yeah. What are the best steps?
Well, compost is the go-to, right? So you're gonna need compost, and in an early year garden, you can put on a lot of compost.
Okay.
You could do up to 6 inches if you wanted to. You know, that's you don't have to, but and I would never do more than that. But
Hmm.
I've seen like just dirt that is just dead. You know, compost. Maybe you've got average soil and you want to start with a few inches, but the point is good, healthy compost. The main trick here is just sourcing good live compost,
How do
right?
you tell a live compost from just something that's dead and is pretty much just glorified soil with organic matter in
Well, technically you can put it under a microscope and look at it.
it? See if things
You
move
know,
around.
you can see if you can see earthworms, things like that are good. A lot of times when you're buying compost, that's just finishing the composting process, like
Hmm.
and so it's been hot and it's going to have some life you can't see in it, but earthworms aren't going to have moved in a lot
Hmm.
of times because it's being made by somebody. But if it's been sitting around for a while, the life will go into it. Really, what you need to do is just find a good source,
Okay.
right? And look in your area more and more. This is higher demand for good compost, and so it's more available in different places.
Mhm.
You just got to dig around and talk to people.
So, what you really want to find, if you can, is somebody who is actively doing the composting, like a
Yeah,
place that is
yeah.
composting that you can get compost from instead of a place that you're just getting bagged compost, because then you can see it's actually been
Yeah,
composted.
the bagged compost, even if it's organic, it's kind of roulette. You may or may not get something good. It could be good, but you don't know how long it's been in the bag. You don't know how long it sat in the warehouse. Has it been super hot? You just don't know. And so it can get you by. It's gotten us by. It's gotten lots of people by, but it's also wrecked some gardens at times. We had a
Yeah.
kind of an epidemic of this a few years ago,
Yeah.
kind of across the country. People were experiencing it. So it's better if you can go buy it in bulk. It's also less expensive. Buy what you need. And you just got to talk to people and, find good gardeners, get on Facebook or Craigslist or whatever.
So I have to ask before we have to wrap up because we're getting a little long
Sure.
here. But so if you can't find good compost in your area, can you still have a good garden?
You get the best that you can find to start.
Okay.
Okay. Even if it's bagged, even if it's not perfect. You get the best you can find. From there, you learn how to make it. It's not hard, but that's where you start to go. And even with that, you source the best materials you can. We're
Well,
not purists.
and one thing that we have learned is that if you're using the best that you can and you're not dumping the chemicals into your garden, the soil, like life will come to your
Mm-hmm.
garden. You'll put some compost out even if it's not great compost, and maybe it'll be a year, maybe it'll be a month. You don't know. All of a sudden you'll be digging in there and you'll be like, "Oh my goodness, there's all this life growing in there. Now there's earthworms, there's all these things." So if you stop the chemicals and you start getting that organic matter in there at the very least, you will start to develop life there in your garden.
Absolutely. We got to cover one more point before we go.
Okay.
I'll be quick because it's one that I've added in recent years and it will be in this download for you. And that is diversity. Monocropping invites pests, it invites disease, it limits the soil biology under the soil because you're just growing one type of plant constantly in an area. And so that's going to limit the soil biology. So you want to do one of two things. You either want a companion plant all the time or you want to rotate crops, right? One or the other, those start to achieve some diversity in your soil. So you're not just always growing corn or tomatoes or squash. I was talking to somebody online not too long ago. They had a squash garden. And then they were wondering why they had all these problems. I was like, oh man, just I've been growing squash in the same plot for like 5 years.
Oh,
Only squash. And then
okay.
they had other gardens otherwhere for other things. You don't want to do that. You want to mix it all up or at a bare minimum, rotate it out. And that creates diversity. Your soil to be healthy needs to experience many different types of plants.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah.
Okay, really good. All right, so if you want to grab that action plan that you have for you, that we have for you, go over to homesteadingfamily.com/healthy garden steps. That's all one word, homesteadingfamily.com/podcast-healthy garden steps. Thank you guys for hanging out with us.
It's been great hanging with you, and we will see you next time.
All right,
Goodbye.
goodbye.